let's just jump right into this thing with what's going on in the National Football League and the national anthem. And how often do you speak to Colin Kaepernick? Do you in contact with him much?
No, not currently, and not because there's any, bad blood or anything like that. Just kind of different paths, I think. But we spoke, through the 2016-2017 season when he was still playing, and then even the little bit of the following year, I guess, which was last season. But no, not directly. I've talked to, I'd spoken with Eric Reed some last year and a lot of other players in the league. I mean, Malcolm Jenkins and Doug Baldwin and some of these other guys that are, obviously Chris Long's a really good friend that have.
Well, what's your conversations about with these guys?
Well, initially, it was when everybody was, first of all, there was a lot more players protesting last year. It was a lot different. But it's been about, the work done off the field. That's the most important thing to me. And I've continued to push for, a lot of them to share that stuff. And it's a tricky place to be because sometimes, people feel weird about, I don't want to say like, it can sound like boasting in a sense of like, look what I'm doing charity-wise or whatever. But for this situation, it's really important to share what you're doing, what programs you're involved with or initiatives you've started off the field. Because there's so many people that continue to say, oh, these players, why do they have to do it at that time? Can't they protest on their own time? What do they do the rest of the week? I don't see them doing anything. In the off season, we don't see them protesting. I'm like, why would they protest in the off season? Like, what do you mean? They just, I think a lot of them have this idea. A lot of people have this false narrative that these players are protesting the national anthem, not during the national anthem, and they're not doing anything else, the other 350 whatever days of the year.
Well, and I want to get into that a little bit more in a second, but just to flesh out in a way your history with this, how did you get hooked up with Kaepernick? Because you were the one who told him, hey, instead of sitting, how about kneeling? Correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
This was, so it's September, late August, early September 2016. It's, the middle of the election, and it's like Trump versus Clinton, and, everyone's just, we've already been slowly dividing over the last decade, it feels like, but it was just more and more and very intense at that time. And then Colin, sits on the bench for the third game in a row, and finally somebody, I think some reporter asked him, like, why are you sitting
Steve
on the bench?
Weich from the NFL Network.
That's correct.
Noticed it from up top.
Not just some reporter. Good call. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. I should have known that.
Yeah, he's on my team.
He's on your team. he's the real deal.
Right.
And Colin said, I'm not going to stand for the flag of a country that oppresses black people and people of color. And of course, with everything going on already, that just was, another match on the gasoline, and huge uproar. It's like everyone immediately takes their side, digs in, and it's like red team versus blue team or whatever you want to call it. And I got reached out to by a few different publications to write something, some pretty big ones, and they wanted me to write an opinion piece. And I think what they kind of wanted or expected was, I'm going to tell Colin why he should stand or why he has to stand or whatever. And instead, I agreed finally to write something with the Army Times, which is a very small publication that, no offense to the Army Times, but not a lot of people read it.
Sure.
And the reason I did is because they said you can do any format you want. It's all you, like whatever you want, and we will, we'll push it. And so I wrote this open letter to Colin that all it did was explain my history, personal history, my relationship to what those symbols stand for. And also I thought it was important to kind of ask the question, why through that letter, and help him, not help him, but allow him the opportunity to not only just read about why I feel that way, but also sort of feel like he can answer back and possibly
have a dialogue.
Work together. Yeah, have a dialogue. And so he reached out. I wrote that letter. It got shared by a lot of sports writers. Was the reason that it got out there.
Well, I mean, because you're a football player.
Kind of.
Long snappers are people too, as you know, right?
That's right. That's true.
Okay, and representing Texas.
Yeah.
And also, what, 6 tours of duty, correct? Did you have 6?
I did go overseas 6 times.
Six times.
Three combat tours, but
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
whenever
So,
they're a bunch,
right.
Yeah.
So
10 years total,
Put
6.
that all together, and obviously you're going to be on the radar screen of a lot
Right.
of people,
Okay.
and still are obviously today. So, what was the conversation that you had that caused him to just say, "Okay, I'm going to kneel now"? Because that's what everybody. The whole conversation, you hear it now. It's now boiled down to players are kneeling on the flag.
Right.
Right. It's now
Yeah.
been boiled down to something that is completely unnuanced.
Right.
In the most nuanced conversation we may have as an American populace.
It's true. It's very
involving
true.
sports. So how did that work?
Yeah. So it got shared around, that night, the next day I'm going to go on NFL Network and do my first interview about it. And I'm pretty nervous about that. And I'm in the green room, and Colin's publicist called me and said he wants to sit down with you tomorrow before the game. And I was like, really? Wow. Okay. So I jumped in an Uber from LA to San Diego, and the next day, and met him down there in the lobby of the team hotel, like 4 hours before kickoff. And Chip Kelly was a coach at the time, and he was like, please, have this conversation. I think it's important. And we sat down, and Eric Reed joined us, and we just talked about, our shared experiences, our different experiences. Also, he explained in detail about why he was doing it for anybody that doesn't know at this point, which it's crazy if you don't, and you're following this story, but it was police brutality, the criminal justice system and its shortcomings, and racial inequality, essentially. And by the end of the conversation, it was to a point where he was very gracious towards me, and was thankful for or shared with me how grateful he was for my service and for time in he had friends doing the same. But also, I wanted to share with him some viewpoints of other people in the veteran community. And I showed some messages that affected him quite a bit, and I could tell by the way he reacted, like it kind of opened his minds and slowed him down a little bit. And he asked me if there was another way to demonstrate, another way that he said, I'm not going to stand. Like I vowed to do that. And until things start to change, or I feel like stuff's in motion, I'm not going to change that. And he asked me if there was another way. And I suggested, first and foremost, to do something alongside his teammates. I thought that was very important, because whether they agree with you or not,
right,
we need to be together on stuff. We need to be more unified as a country. And I think that's a good symbol. And that's when I, thought of kneeling, just because it's more of a sign of reverence. We kneel to pray, propose to our wives. When a player's hurt on the field, everyone takes a knee. It's always a pretty respectful gesture, as far as I know. And he thought that was more powerful than sitting, and he agreed to do that. And that night, he did it for the first time in the game, and I stood next to him on the field. And,
yeah, you were there.
And then since then, we've gone back to, like you said, it's just this focus on who's protesting and what's their form of protest. What's the gesture, not what's behind it.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.